Hey, how's your week going so far? My name is Alicia.
I'm Nicole.
Let's take a little time away from the hustle and bustle of adulting. Let's indulge our curiosities just for a bit and talk about killers, psychos, and the unexplained.
Today we are venturing into Iowa to talk about Jody Truitt and the Waverly Stranglings.
Welcome to Iowa, where between 1971 and 1976, a trio of shocking murders would take place in the small town of Waverly, Iowa. These cases are unsolved and are referred to as the Waverly Stranglings. Waverly is a town in northeast Iowa with around 7,000 person population in the early 1970s. So quite a small town that's surrounded by miles and miles of like rural terrain. So super small town vibes, okay? Victim number one was Valerie Lynn Klawowski. She was the second of three daughters. Her parents were Harold and Jeannie, and they had been married and divorced multiple times before calling it quits. So the girls' home life, I'm sure, wasn't exactly ideal. Their mother did eventually remarry, and their father would end up buying a home to share with their girls' grandmother, May. The grandmother would take care of their girls while their father worked. Valerie was an average student who was said to be thoughtful and creative, and she would spend her free time writing poetry or songs, and she would also play guitar. On the evening of June 13th, 1971, when Valerie was just 14 years old, would be the last time anyone would see her alive. She was dropped off at a public pool with her friend to enjoy some swimming and aquatic activities, as teens do. While Valerie's friend Cindy was heading into the pool area, Valerie handed her swimsuit and her towel for her to hold on to while she went to go meet up with a guy friend, stating to Cindy if she blew him off and didn't go see him, that he would be mad. Cindy was like, okay, and set the things down. And, she went about swimming. Like, go do what you're going to do. I'm here to get my swim on. Anyhow, Valerie did not end up coming back from this meeting. When Cindy's parents came to pick the girls up, Cindy told them that Valerie left her there. So Cindy called Valerie's dad to tell him that Valerie had left her at the pool and she hadn't seen her since 7 p.m. when they were dropped off. So Harold called the police and reported his daughter missing. It had been reported that around 8:30 p.m., Valerie had dropped by a different friend's house to hang out, but apparently that friend wasn't home. So then she left there. And then at around 8:50, while Denise, who was Valerie's older sister, was outside of a house, I'm not sure whose house, but she was hanging out and she was outside the house. She had seen Valerie walking across Highway 218. I guess she really didn't think much of it. I guess that was something average that Valerie would just be kind of wandering around. So Denise like, all right. But this would be the last time that Valerie would be seen.
Oh.
Yeah. So on the morning of June 15th, 1971, which is 2 days later, at around 10:30 a.m., Valerie's partially clothed body would be discovered near a bridge southeast of town. A couple of boys were walking along the creek and happened upon her body. It appeared as though Valerie had been thrown over. There was like a 3-foot railing on the bridge, but poor Valerie had been strangled. She fractured her larynx in the process, so that's pretty intense. Now, her body was only found partially clothed, just her upper body. However, it wasn't really disclosed if she had been sexually assaulted or not. Investigators had interviewed more than like 150 people and followed all the leads over several months. Valerie's case remains unsolved, and it's just one of three linked cases known as the Waverly Stranglings. Victim number two, Julia Ann Benning, was the oldest of five daughters to Lowell and Joanne Benning. Julia grew up on a farm in Clarksville, which I guess is even smaller than Waverly. Even though she grew up in quite an isolated environment, she was a very independent thinker. She had pen pals in different states and countries and would partake in writing in defense of minorities, which in the early 70s was quite progressive for the time. She actually wanted to pursue investigative journalism as a career. She performed in choir and band and was a gifted artist. She graduated high school in 1975 and was trying to work for a local radio station. But since she didn't really have any background and it didn't really work out, they said, no, you don't have, what's the word I'm looking for?
Experience.
Yeah. So yeah, they're like, no, you don't really have enough experience. So That didn't work out. So she decided to go ahead and commute to the nearby town of Waverly for a waitressing position at Sir Lounge, which is apparently a gentleman's club.
Oh,
She was well known and well liked amongst the customers, but she was a waitress, not a stripper.
okay.
Parents were still not very fond of this idea at all.
Would you be?
Oh no, no. I mean, I wouldn't be very thrilled if my daughter did that. No. However, our girl's got to make her money, okay?
Okay.
She again, so she was a waitress, not an entertainer, but I guess it was still kind of a big deal to them. By the fall of 1975, 18-year-old Julia decided to move in with her grandmother, who lived in Waverly, so she'd be closer to work. After spending Thanksgiving with her parents, Julia woke up on November 28th, 1975, and was getting ready for work. Her mom was upset and asking her not to go into work that day, but Julia was like, Mom, I have to work. After saying goodbye to her parents, Julia would leave and head over to Waverly. Around 2 p.m., she was last seen walking downtown, apparently, like on her way to work.
Okay.
She never arrived.
Ooh.
The next day, November 29th, 1975, Julia's work called her parents to ask where she was since she didn't show up for her shift that yesterday or that day, and they were worried. The family went looking for her but couldn't find her, so they filed a missing person. There was a couple different witnesses that claimed to have seen her. One was at 2 p.m. walking to work, and another said that around 5 p.m. she was at a shoe store, and another said that she was at a concert hanging out with a band member later that evening. She did love music, so it's not that far off to think that she would have attended this concert. Apparently, it was one of her favorite artists called Hot Cotton.
Who is Hot Cotton?
I don't know, but Julia liked them. Hot
Oh,
Cotton. But then on March 18th, 1976, around 4 months later, Julia's body would be discovered on a country road near Shell Rock, Iowa, which is a few miles away from Clarksville. She was found by a maintenance worker. Her nude body was hidden inside of a culvert, and the rain had apparently washed her out. Since the body was pretty decomposed, it was difficult to determine the exact cause of death. But during the autopsy, it was discovered trauma to her neck and strangulation. So that's probably the cause of death. Investigators continued to follow leads and asked around, but her case is still unsolved and attributed to the Waverly Strangling series. Moving forward, victim number 3, Marie Lisa Peak, who went by Lisa, was the daughter of Mary and Frank Peak. She was pursuing journalism at Wartburg College in Waverly. She lived in the women's dormitory, and while she was moving in for the semester on September 6th, Lisa went to the mall to pick up some school supplies and some clothes, little things that she needed. However, this would be the last time that she would be seen alive. The next morning, September 7th, 1976, 19-year-old Lisa Peak's body was found nude and laying face down in a quiet area underneath a tree in a cornfield just north of Waverly. She had been strangled to death and her neck had been broken. While investigators did their thing, questioned everybody they could, followed all the leads that they could, her case is still yet to be solved. And again, the last of the Waverly Strangling series. Now, all three of these victims were young, 14 to 19 years old, and they were all strangled to death, and they were all found partially or mostly nude. They were all abandoned in rural areas near Waverly, and they all happened between 1971 to 1976. But again, unfortunately, all three cases have yet to be solved, but this puts an end to this awful unsolved case for now.
you think the person moved on to something else?
Maybe, or
Died?
maybe he just stopped murdering, or they just stopped murdering in this way, or perhaps they moved to a
No,
different area.
yeah. They definitely could have switched it up or moved. They could be in prison.
Well, there's so many serial murderers that just go state to state. They kill some here, travel, kill some there. Who knows? Could have been a truck driver rolling through.
Yeah. Well, I hope someday they solve it because that's very cruel.
Yes.
Well, Jody Sue Heisenschutz went missing on June 27th, 1995. She was born June 5th, 1968. She was only 27 when she disappeared. Jody had taken a TV anchorwoman position in Mason City, Iowa in 1993, and she became an active member of society very quickly. She has no known enemies. Jody is 5 foot 4 inches and 115 pounds with blonde hair and brown eyes. So, what happened that morning she went missing? Well, at 3:50 a.m., she had failed to at this point to report to work. So her producer called her home and answered, and they talked, and the producer said she seemed normal and nothing seemed amiss when she had talked to her on the phone. It just sounded like she had overslept and she had woke her up, right? When Jody still hadn't arrived by 6 a.m., she sent someone to check on her. Some personal items were scattered all over the ground. High heels, a blow dryer, hairspray, her earrings, and a bent car key. Why were they laying all over the ground near her Mazda?
Why was the car key bent?
Correct. Police were called to the scene and the evidence showed that she had been forcefully taken. There was like drag marks that you could tell it was somebody's feet. So, by the afternoon, Mason City Police, along with the FBI and the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation, launched a massive search. They found no trace. The only clue was a white Ford Econ-Line van, and it was seen in Jody's parking lot around the time she disappeared. So she lived in like an apartment complex. But girl, nobody saw anything or heard anything. Police have considered an obsessed fan who later abducted her, and several neighbors heard screams around the time Jody would have been leaving for work. No one called or looked or did anything. A partial palm print was found on Jody's car, but no matches came up on that. Now, I will tell you there's some speculation on that because you'll see why later when we get further into the case about this palm print, okay? The case aired all over the TV on February 18th, 1996, because it was still unsolved. So it was like literally on Unsolved Mysteries. And if you're too young to know what that is, just Google it, okay? In May of 2001, Jody was declared legally dead. Because at some point, when you can't find somebody, they a lot of times will declare them legally dead. It's just easier to like close bank accounts and do all those things, right? So, no trace of her has ever been found. A serial rapist, Tony Jawan Jackson, is a person of interest. He lived 2 blocks from the TV station at the time, and in '98 he reportedly confessed to her murder to a cellmate. Tony claimed he buried Jody's body near a farm in Tiffin, and the remains were never found because they actually went out there and tried to find these remains. But you know, a lot of people will claim crimes they didn't commit to give themselves clout, right? So the next suspect is John Van Ness, and he was one of the last people to see her before she disappeared. The night before Jody went missing, she was at John's house watching a video of her birthday party. Another suspect is a man named Thomas Korskaden, a convicted sex offender who is obsessed with Jody. At the time, he owned a white van he dubbed his porn place.
Ooh.
Yep. I apologize. He dubbed it his porn palace.
Ew, again.
Yeah, it's girl gross. In prison, he was heard saying Jody's dead, even though she was just missing at that point in '94. Jody had reported a possible stalking, so she had reported him as a stalker in 1994. Oni, a friend whom also knew John, seemed like she knew more than she was letting on. So John is the guy whose house she went to watch a movie about her birthday party. So there's a recording out there of 48 hours that you can watch. And they did it as the 30th anniversary of the case. And if you watch it, Oni seems possibly jealous of Jody because she seemed to like John, who seemed to like Jody. And just the way she talks in the video. So, LaShonda, a friend of John's, said when Jody was abducted, they were together working out. So that's his alibi. That's why they've never been able to bring him in. There is a website called findjody.com, and the TV station created it to keep the case alive. They loved her so much. The community, she was only there for 2 years. They loved her so much as a community. Not only did the TV station create this thing to find her, um, there is a ribbon that they tied around the tree right outside the station when she went missing. Girl, it is still there. Oni said they didn't tape off the area for several days. So one of the things she says in the interview is the police went out there and did their investigation of her missing, and no one roped it off. And so who knows what was trampled on, stolen, moved, like they just
No.
don't know. So investigators released the car a couple months after she went missing. They just gave it back to the family. In July of 2023, the police won't comment much, but said they wanted to clear up a few things. There was no palm print on the car. It was on a light pole near the car. No blood was found at the crime scene or nearby. The toilet seat in Jody's apartment was found up when the police arrived to do the well check. The police didn't use the toilet. So apparently there's some rumor out there that the police used the toilet while they were doing the investigation. No DNA was ever obtained at Jody's apartment. And they do have items to test for DNA. Because two wine glasses were found at the scene near the sink. So my thought is, why is it taking so mother trucking long to test for DNA? Who's paying you guys not to figure out who murdered this lady? Obviously, she's got to be dead or locked up somewhere.
Yeah, there's so many loopholes there. There's so many things they missed. There's so many things they didn't even do, like per protocol, you know?
Just it was so weird. Yeah, I would definitely go to that website and check it out. They have a bunch of information up there. You can find the 48 hours video. There's a bunch of information there. But have you heard of Josie Who's in True? Who do you think did it? Please visit the video section of findjody.com to listen to the podcast for more up to date and
Wow,
girl, yeah.
Jody. Okay, well, now let's finish this off with a little bit of the unexplained. Iowa's cryptid creature is the Van Meter visitor. In 1903, a small community called Van Meter in Iowa had a week of almost nightly visits by a creature they could only name as the Van Meter visitor. Described as a large beast with bat-like wings that would leave a stench everywhere it went. It was also said to have fire beams of bright light that would come out from its forehead. Obviously, quite a scary situation, right? Yeah, beam and light, forehead. Some of the townsfolk tried to capture and or shoot it several times unsuccessfully. Pleading and worried about their lives and their families' lives, they all decided to band together and attack the beast as one. Legend has it that one evening they were able to chase the beast into an old abandoned coal mine where it disappeared deep into the darkness, never to be seen again. Have you heard of the Van Meter visitor? Let us know. We are interested.
I want to know about the lights coming out of the forehead.
Yeah. And it had bat wings. So it's like flying, like huge wings, big light out its forehead. Girl, that'd be terrifying. What the hell?
I would not be chasing it down. I'd be running in the opposite direction.
Yes, disintegrate. Like, what is that?
Well, we would like to thank you for joining us in our discoveries of Iowa this week. Please join us next week while we travel to Kansas. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss our adventures next week into killers, psychos, and the unexplained.
Goodbye.
Bye.